We are delighted that you're joining us for another podcast of Wake Up Aligned, and it is the podcast for chiropractors where we get to talk about chiropractic lifestyle, and topics of interest. You can contact us through our email, and that is mailbag@amcfamily.com. Well, you are joining Wake Up Aligned again, and this is the podcast number 2 of What Does Success Look Like? If you have found this podcast, kind of just stumbled upon it and didn't realize this was part 2 or there's a first part to this, I highly recommend you go back to your platform, search that out, and look for What Does Success Look Like Part 1, where Dr. Greg Miller and I have an interview and a conversation with Doctors Kyle and Savannah Lorenz. It is well worth the time you will give to listen to that. So I am your host, Dr. Shannon McMurtry. I'm here with Dr. Greg Miller. Say hello to everybody.
Hello, everybody.
See, he's very compliant, listeners, isn't it? And we also have the lovely and gracious Dr. Tara Horrall with us today. Hello, Dr. Tara.
Hello.
So you were in the room, you were in the studio as the Doctors Lorenz were telling their story. You didn't get a chance to comment on any of that because you didn't have a microphone. Do you have a comment? Do you have a thought about what you heard in their story? If not, you don't have to say, whatever.
When have I ever been one to avoid comment? Honestly, I'm just so super proud of them. And, I remember running into them at their very first meeting that they came to in the elevator. And, they were joyful people, but they were in a very desperate situation. And it's a joy to see what the fruits of their labors through the system and the principles that they've learned have created.
I didn't know their status that very first boot camp summit, whatever we were calling it back then. But I agree with you. They were joyful. They were enthusiastic. I did not think. I had no reason to look at them and say, they're in desperate situation. Right. They're 1.4 in the hole. They can't buy a bologna sandwich at the hotel because that's not how they carried themselves. Mm. And if we're going to talk about what does success look like, I think that's what success looks like. Like, you're not defined by your circumstances. You're defined about how you respond to your circumstances. All right. If you're going to be a sourpuss and look like you were weaned on a pickle because times are rough, then you're probably going to have a harder time coming out of that hard situation, hard season of your life, right? Dr. Greg, you mentor some very successful people. Dr. Terry, you mentor some very successful people. I'm no slouch in my own right in that regard. I want to have a mentors meeting, a mentors debrief about what does success look like. We heard Dr. Kyle and Dr. Savannah talk about their journey, their success, how they even chose not to take the easy path, which, again, I'd never heard that before, didn't know that about their history. So what does success look like when you're mentoring your people? Even if they're not successful yet, how do you know, I got somebody who's got that it factor, they've got this stuff that it's just a matter of time, right? Is it quantifiable? Have you ever thought about what those attributes are?
A lot.
All right.
My quickest response, my innate response to that is I present, whether I'm presenting the CER, the AMC system, or I'm saying, here's an idea to go out and bring some new patients into the office. And the response from the doctor is, oh, yeah, that's a great idea. Let's go make that happen. Versus, well, here's a reason it won't work in my market, or I tried to do that before and it didn't work. It wasn't effective. And excuse after excuse after excuse as to why it might not work, versus the doctor who says, all right, tell me what to do and I'll go do it. And then you tell me how I could do it even better.
So what is that? Is that it, like they're receiving advice with enthusiasm? They just have a belief in what you've said? Or because the opposite is the person who has never done it is already telling you is skeptical. Yeah. So does success look like somebody who is optimistic or believes their advice or approaches that advice with enthusiasm? Is that, do you think the characteristic we're talking about?
Yeah. I think one of the things I'm learning as I grow into this mentor thing, I've only been doing it for a couple of years, right? But it's not just that attribute that we're talking about is not just in running their practice. It's in every aspect.
It's who they are.
It's just who they are. And I heard it several times. I mean, we're hanging out at a summit this weekend,
Sure.
and I heard it several times during the general session this morning as your docs were coming up,
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Tara, and then they just said, Nikki Mercado, she said it point blank. She said, just tell me what to do and I will go do it. And those doctors, every time you hear that, you end up watching them go up and get awards and become successful because that is what they're willing to do. They don't know any other way.
Speaking of Dr. Nikki, I know you have something to say, Dr. Speaking of Dr. Nikki, let's just give her a shout out.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Right? Because success, again, well, it was easy for them. They didn't have setbacks. What's the tally now? We've got one health issue that's cardiovascular.
Cardio.
We've got a car accident that not just
about took
her,
out
but
the
her
whole
whole family.
Yeah.
And then recently she slipped in her household. She slipped at home and has severely damaged or injured her back, correct?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And then the staff issues, you would know better.
Okay,
You're
yeah, so
coach on it,
staff
but
turnover,
She's had a year, man. She really has.
She was saying that was this year, but what did she say that this year was? Like, was this her best year or is this?
Yeah.
Right. So Dr. Nikki, shout out for her. Right?
Loud shout, man. You're awesome.
Because that's what success looks like. Right. So what do you want to share about that, Dr. Tara, before I interrupted and stepped on you?
Well, you were talking about people that have that verbalize the whatever it takes attitude. What I've seen too, though, it's the verbalization of the whatever it takes attitude, and then the rubber actually meeting the road when it comes to, I've seen those people who are like, oh, I'll do whatever you tell me. And then you start telling, and it's it's
that's when the skeptical
but
stuff
I won't
of the
do
excuse
that.
is gonna, yeah.
Or I'll do it, but not to 100%. I've had some conversations with docs with very recently about Dr. Owens. He always said, no good effort's ever wasted. Mm-hmm. And I started putting the emphasis on a different syllable, right? On a different word. They hear no good effort's ever wasted, right? But I'm like, no good effort is ever wasted. Because what I see is a lot of times we think we're very optimistic about our own efforts, right? We're I am doing everything I can. I'm giving 100%. And I find sometimes that's reality and sometimes that's not at all. And what I mean is that there are a lot of, if I'm going to go out and do a spinal screening, for example, I can go out and I can do the spinal screening, but if I go out and do it with the wacky ideas of what bad expectations, right? Or not with the right heart or intentions, then am I still really putting forth the very best effort that I could? And the answer is, of course, no.
Right.
And so until I really hammer down and get to the point where I'm doing good actions, right? The effort plus I'm valuable. What I have to share is valuable. And it's not because I need it. It's because there are people out there that need it. Now we have a good effort, right? It's so much more, I think, than what people really give it.
Oh, absolutely.
Give to it.
I guess we engage with stuff like that at a very superficial level. We don't go into depth. That's still like stuff that's happening to me. Things that I heard 20, 25 years ago that have been planted that I thought I understood. It's like you wake up and God gives you that gift and you're like, oh, that's what that means. So you're talking about this characteristic of picking and choosing. Well, I'll do whatever it takes, but I don't want to do that. Just like the anti-meatloaf. I'll do anything for love.
But I won't do.
But I won't.
So I'll do anything for success, but I won't do that. So what's that quality? Is that an all-in quality? Is that an all-in? Is that just a commitment? Like I'm committed to do whatever I need to do or whatever you tell me to do? What is the attribute? How would you define that characteristic?
I think there's a different thing, different things that people would call it, but I think it all roots in pride, right? That I know.
So successful people are prideful?
No.
Okay.
I think I'll do this, but I won't do that.
That's rooted in pride.
It says, yeah, but I know that won't work because I know how to do it. Well, if you knew how to do it to get results, then you would have already done it. And so what's the opposite of pride then, right?
They're humble.
Right. Is being humble. That's something you and I discussed, right?
Sure.
Whenever we talked about a particular subject like this a long time ago, is having great humility.
Humble but confident.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Well, so there were so many things. As a mentor for the Lorenzes that almost sounded, the Lorenzes, that I couldn't do that. I've proven I couldn't do that again. But so many things that I wanted to share that I thought would make such an impact on. But let me tell you this. Savannah just completed her 11th Ladies' Night Out.
Yeah.
They had to rent a facility because the practice, this is a brand new building that they built, doesn't have enough room to do their Ladies' Night Out.
Which is a marketing event inside the chiropractic office.
Yeah, they had 27 vendors. Mm-hmm. They had over 250 tickets that were sold to be a part of this event. It ended up to be a 2-hour event, which really isn't a huge amount of commitment. Now, there was prep time and everything, but they got 15 new patients directly from that event. She loves to do the event. She gets to dress up. She gets to yeah. I mean, if you want to know more about Ladies' Night Out, get on board with AMC. Yeah, mailbag at AMC, right? But here's the thing that I think defines who Dr. Kyle and Dr. Savannah are. The very first time they did the Ladies' Night Out, they almost didn't do another one.
That's right.
Because they only had 4 patients come to the event. They didn't even have any vendors show up.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But they stuck it out and they said, you know what? This makes sense. We like it. It's proven itself. Let's keep doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And they've done it year after year after year. And now the thing has exploded. And she is so proud of it. She had so much fun. And Dr. Kyle loved it because he wasn't welcome there. So there was an event he didn't have to do. But anyway.
So we've got a couple of characteristics here that you guys breezed through. I'm compiling a list as we go. What does success look like? Success looks like whatever it takes, attitude, humble, humility, right? Tell me what to do, I'll do it, because I don't know what I don't know. Confident, persistent, right? Success looks persistent. It doesn't look like this failed or this was embarrassing, so we're never doing this again. Other people do this and do well. Let's just stay with it. And now we actually do it better than anybody else that's ever done it. That's persistent, right?
Well, oh my gosh.
Well, yeah, talk. That's what we're here to do.
Okay. So you who are listening, when you do a marketing event, I always used to have, and I still encourage my doctors, have a file, not on your computer, it's an actual file folder. It's manila in color and you put papers in it. Okay.
Did he say vanilla in color?
I'm just being a grandpa
He said
at the
paper.
moment, but I said paper. But take a flyer from the event, from the Ladies' Night Out, take a flyer, take the letter from your Patient Appreciation Day, flip it over on the back and write the results down so that you can track from year to year. But this is how many new patients we got from this event. This is how many actually came under our recommendations for treatment. This is the vendors that we had there, and just do a little bit of a journal of what happened with that event and then put it in the file. Because how many times do we get to this time of year and we say, okay, start putting your marketing together for next year, and they have no idea because they didn't they didn't track it, and confidently look at that and be consistent in what they're doing from year to year to year. It's not that hard to do, and it makes it so much easier when that comes around. That's just an example of, that's the other thing I see with Dr. Kyle and Dr. Savannah. They love their practice. They love it. And they want to make it better. They're looking at the minutia of that practice. Every time I have a call with Dr. Kyle, we always touch on something AMC. We always talk about, well, how can I do that better to get a better result in my practice? We never have that phone call that is a bitch session. Now, that's probably going to get edited, but I mean, maybe you guys maybe you guys never have those, but they're such a waste of time. The calls that I have with Dr. Kyle and Dr. Savannah are so efficient because they're constantly looking to do it better. I used to call it polishing the apple. And now I'll give that shout out to Dr. Tony Morris. He's the one that said that. He came back to AMC several years ago and he said, look, I just need to polish the apple. We aren't going to polish an apple that you don't like, right? You're going to polish the one that you like and you want it to be even better. So that's what I see with successful people around this place.
Okay. I'm adding 3 more characteristics to the list, right? They track their numbers. What does success look like? Success looks like I'm aware of my data points, my key performance indicators, and I track them. I know where I am. I don't just feel like where I am.
Oh, he knows everything about that project.
Success looks like loving what you do. And that's a choice, right? You can choose to love it. You can choose to hate it. You're making the choice, right? That's a matter of am I going to love this thing that I do? Am I going to love this career that I'm in? Am I going to love this family that I serve? That's where you make the choice to do it or not. The next one you said, they're positive. They don't waste time complaining, right?
Well, something that you brought up while you were talking to Dr. Kyle and Savannah, or at least I might have filtered it down a little bit. You didn't say the exact words, but they had a lot of reasons that it could have not gone, right? They were down for the count financially. They were getting ready to have a baby. But they didn't make any excuses, right? There were no excuses in the conversation that you talked about. And really, there were no reasons for them, because I see people kind of get stuck in that reason session, right?
Well, I'm not making excuses. I'm giving reasons.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So they didn't even give any reasons why they weren't successful. But what they did is they said no matter what, despite the fact, not even that, right? Hey, I'm pregnant. So what we're going to do is we're going to speed up our opening, right. Not put it off, right? I mean, no excuses.
That's such a really great point. But the other thing that I saw, and maybe, I don't know if you picked up on this, but they did not want to take over that practice.
No.
And I think now that I watched Dr. Kyle when you were having that conversation, it's because they started that practice, they've grown that practice, and that is theirs. It is theirs. And I think that fits into his passion to really understand, the physiology of the place. It really is. Everything's got to be ticking.
So we talk about attitude, like have a good attitude. And I work with people who think when I say your attitude needs to be in check, you need to have the right kind of attitude. They think, oh, well, everything has to always be just roses and rainbows. Right. And it's not Pollyanna. They just gave you the can-do attitude, right? I want to own this clinic. I want to build this clinic. I want to create something that is ours, because we have a can-do attitude about that. If you want an attitude of success, what does success look like? It's a can-do attitude. You also said no excuses, which again, we're really, really adept as people at saying, well, this isn't an excuse. This is real. I'm not just making stuff up. Nobody says an excuse can't be something that's legit or real or tangible. Mm-hmm. What are you going to do with that? Because the best quote I've ever heard from our mentor about excuses is this: success makes no excuses. Failure demands them. Mm-hmm. Right? So if you want to know what success looks like I don't have any excuses, because there's no excuses to make. Now, they had just as many reasons as anybody else: pregnancy and, cashing in wedding gifts and whatever. Couldn't come. How many times, mentors, have we heard, I can't come because I don't have the money? But that's not what this couple just said to us.
Their go-to. The excuse is not their go-to. Right. They don't automatically go to that. And then she sat right here and said, I'm a very different person than I was then.
Yes.
She only got better.
Exactly right. Yeah. They're not saying I can't come and don't have the money. They're saying we need to go. How do we make it happen? Well, we're going to take a cooler. If they offer us food, we're going to take that and maybe take an extra plate, and it might be embarrassing, but this is how we're going to do this. This is how we're going to pull this off. Right? That's what that looks like. Any other characteristics, attributes that you would like to share with the audience when it comes to what does success look like?
I really, truly believe that you can choose to find joy in your situation. We just had him sitting here, I guess, but he made the comment, we loved our life, even though they were doing all those things that you just listed, Dr. Shannon, and they were, sneaking food from the buffet. He said we loved our life. They wouldn't have had, and he loves his marriage. Those are some key core components to being happy and healthy and successful in your life. You gotta love those things that are around you. You can't. The comparison trap is a really, really scary place to be, and talked a little bit about that. Social media plays into that.
Continuing education.
Yeah. CE events. Yeah. But they just have fun. They have fun together. They have fun with their family, with their kids. They get time away. They've got an associate in there who's doing gangbusters. He's just doing a great job.
Dr. Tanner. Yeah.
Dr. Tanner. And now he just realized when we were doing a video earlier that he's 1 year graduated just right now.
Wow.
And he'll have started a year ago with them January 1st. And
that's like the other associate, Dr. Dalton. I think they're like on identical paths right there.
And Dr. Tanner will well eclipse $200,000 in services out of that collection, out of that clinic, that busy clinic. He has done an outstanding job. Of course, he's beating himself up because he thinks it should be more than that. He's a hockey player though, so gloves off kind of thing. But back to my point, I think Dr. Kyle and Dr. Savannah are the picture of loving each other, loving their family, loving their practice. I think that's who they are.
So is that joy? Like they were choosing to be joyful, even when they had nothing, even then when they had less than nothing. So success looks like joy.
Choose it all joy.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So there's a quote that comes with that. If you can't be happy with a little, you'll never be happy with a lot. Right? Isn't that true?
It's true.
How many people have we talked to who have had like great success, even changed careers and, went through some real sacrifices? They downsized from the 4,000 square foot house to the 1,200 square foot house, and they had mom and dad and 4 kids and whatever. And you talk to them now, and you're like, aren't you glad to be out of that? And I'm sure that was cramped. And they're like, that was actually some of the best times we ever had. We were so close. We didn't have any money. We just entertained each other and enjoyed each other's presence, and there was no room to hide and blah. That's how success thinks about those moments. It's not, poor me, this is a struggle, this sucks. There's joy to be found here. The Owen family that started this AMC aligned family that we enjoy. There was a time where they go to the cupboard and there's nothing in the cupboard. And they're living in a travel trailer in a family member's yard. And there's nothing. So what did they decide to do? They have laughing sessions. They have laughing sessions when they're lower than low, got nothing to show. That's joy, right? That's choosing to find joy. Not making your joy dependent on when things are good, quote unquote, by the external report.
There are wealthy people in this world that don't know how to laugh.
That's true.
Don't know how to smile.
Yeah,
don't know how to have that joy.
And they're not successful. No. They have money, but they're not successful. Or maybe more accurately, money has them. Right. So again, Terry, you're nodding. You're smiling.
You guys are so great. That's all I can do.
Okay.
Smile and nod.
That was. Yeah.
And so you can feel this kind of closing up. Like, is there any other characteristics? And that's where you came up with joy. go back to that, reset that. I'm going to close this discussion up. Are there any other characteristics you can think of in the people you work with now, have worked with in the past, that exemplify what success looks like?
I mean, I was listening to them and I'm hearing people who, I mean, these are not people who knew everything about, they have a clinic that is, can I talk about? I mean, They have a multidisciplinary clinic, right? Those are not things that they knew about whenever they very first opened their practice. And I think successful people, right? Dr. Owen always talked about you're either green and growing or you're ripe and rotting. They're challenging themselves no matter how. They could sit here and say, oh yeah, we're so great. That's not what they were doing though, is it? Instead, it's no, we still have things to learn and ways to grow and ways that we're going to continue to challenge and expand ourselves and the way that we serve our community. There's two things there, I guess. One is the green and growing, and the other is that desire to continue to serve in a greater capacity. We see that with, look around this table. I mean, we served patients, and then, again, this is just part of it, right? And then we said, you know what, I could make an even bigger difference by serving chiropractors and helping them to see more people in their offices and so on. And again, speaking for other chiropractors out within the different state associations and such, and really being able to make a bigger impact. So I guess, again, continuing to find ways to grow not only yourself, but grow in service.
And let's be clear that Dr. Kyle and Savannah they do have an integrated practice, but they compassionately believe that everything they're doing in there is making a difference for their patients.
Sure.
They absolutely. He is constantly looking at new ways and inventive ways to make an impact in his community, and there's story after story after story. They're making an impact in the healthcare community because of the way that they run their AMC office. And you could speak to that, Dr. Shannon. Yeah. They love every aspect of what they're doing, and they're allowing it to make a tremendous impact. And let's be honest, there are doctors right down the street in that community that are just absolutely flipped the other way in terms of what kind of lens they're looking at the world with. And it's so hard sometimes to watch people make decisions with, I'm a grandpa, right? With the wisdom that you carry around with you, with the time that you've spent on this planet. And it breaks my heart to watch doctors and their teams make the decisions that they make, because I know what that's going to look like. But I've had to learn to disconnect myself from that, because as a people pleaser, I'm wired as a people pleaser. I can carry that stuff around with me for a very, very long time.
Sure.
And I have to let it go. I have to let them go. And I am envious. And I have to be really careful about that word, but I love what I see in Dr. Kyle and Dr. Savannah. I'm blessed to be able to have calls with them and mentor them. It has just been an absolute joy.
I wish every chiropractor, not just every aligned chiropractor, I wish every chiropractor could spend a day with each of us doing our mentorship.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Like, be right here next to me in a chair, look at the same computer screen I'm looking at, have this other earbud, hear the conversation, and look at the person that you're contacting now or in a conversation with, who it's all doom and gloom, there's nothing good, whatever. And you look at their market, you look at their median household income, and you're like, you don't know how good you have it. And then hang up that phone, spend your next 5 minutes prepping for the next one, call that person who's in a cruddy market, doesn't have two nickels to rub together. And they're like, tell me something good today. I've got so much good to tell you. Man, we just had this patient get this result, and we got an opportunity to go do a talk over here. We never did that before. I'm not looking forward to that. Maybe you're going to have to give me some advice. Well,
what do you think about this idea? Or how would you do this better?
Like, This person who's doing all the complaining and moaning and nothing's good, like if we took that person out and put him in the second person's market, they would go out in 6 months. If we took the person who's in that crummy market, but the great attitude, and put him in that nice market, it would be like rocket ship, right? Mm-hmm. I wish people could see what we see daily.
I would offer up a full week of that.
Oh my gosh.
As long as they have to agree to the headbutts to the drywall that come along with coaching. I have dents in the drywall all over my office from that. No.
I have really enjoyed this conversation.
It's great.
I'm hoping and confident that this is going to really connect with some folks. And I think it's also fair to say that we all go through some seasons where we're acting and behaving and choosing success more than we are other seasons. So just because you're in a season where it's a little more challenging, or you find yourself making excuses, doesn't mean that's who you are for the rest of your life, right? We've all lived through some pretty severe circumstances and some pretty life-changing situations. So we understand what that feels like, but you don't have to stay there, right? That's choice. You may find yourself in some bad circumstances through no fault of your own, absolutely control, but staying there is in your control. And that, I think that's my final word, just encouragement about that. As always, I just want to give out that mailing address, mailbag@amcfamily.com. We are here to help you. We are here to encourage you. We are here to teach you. And I promise you this, if you've got some or a lot of these successful attributes, what success looks like, we would love to talk to you.
I want to encourage too. Can I encourage?
You'll do it better than I will, though. No problem, because you're an encourager by nature.
You were blessed in part 1 and part 2 to hear what it sounds like to have a successful chiropractic practice. Mm-hmm. But you heard more than just that. You heard what a success in life can be like. Sure. And I want to be very, very clear with each person that's listening today that you have the opportunity to be just as successful. It's decisions that you make, and we don't have time to go into the Coke can, right? But whatever you put into that can is what's going to come back out of it at some point or another. And things like immediate fast and just getting away from those things that pull you down. If you stop doing something in the day, throughout the day, and you don't like how you feel when you're done with it, stop doing that thing and replace it with something else. You're more important than that. You deserve more than that. Your family deserves more than that. Your patients deserve more than that. And certainly.
Well, it's an excellent reminder, because you may not be wired this way. I'm not wired this way 25 years ago.
Oh, goodness.
There's a lot of cynicism and disbelief and whatever. But I adopted those techniques that you're talking about, media fast and, hanging around people who have better concepts, so many things that we can't cover today. And because I was willing to do that, then these other things came to me gradually and over time. And now I'm a different person, hopefully better person than I was 20 or 25 years ago. I want to be better in another 20 or 25 years, right? But I just think it's a great reminder, and I'm so glad that you did that. You don't have to flip a switch and say, I've got to do all these tomorrow. You can take very small, manageable, incremental steps that, yes, they may be challenging, but they're not hard, right?
Make new choices.
Take control of it. If you don't like, hey man, I'm talking about, the phone, the social media. If you don't like how you feel when you put it down, then stop picking it back up again. Replace it with something else. Got to start somewhere, and that's a great place to start.
Dr. Tara, thank you for joining us, Dr. Greg. Appreciate all that you offered. As I've said many, many times, we are here to serve you, and you have a need. We have an opportunity to help, and that's a match made. So I just appreciate all the listeners, and I hope this week serves you well and you serve people well. Cannot wait to be back with you next week. And until then, God bless you.
Follow our show You can share it with friends, of course, and we'd love for you to contact us at mailbag@amcfamily.com. In addition, you're always invited to attend or join us at a summit. Of course, registration is required. And we would love for you to check out the loads of free content we provide to social media every single week. Until next time.